African History Network and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Welcome to the African History Network show. It is Sunday, May 14th, 2023, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Well, I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, and one of those segments that we did has already been viewed, I think, probably about 50,000 times. Roland just posted it on Saturday, an excerpt, and I posted an excerpt of us discussing the killing of Jordan Neely and the arrest of 24-year-old Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny, who was an ex-Marine, and he has been charged with second-degree manslaughter. We're going to give you an update on what's taking place in that case. And also Daniel Penny, who is white, and Jordan Neely, who is African-American. Daniel Penny is being hailed as a hero by many in conservative media, many on Fox News, many on the right. One of the people who is hailing him as a hero is Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida. Okay, we'll give you some information on that. And we know that there's an article from the Washington Post. Conservatives hail Daniel Penny as hero after killing man on subway. So you have a lot of these white supremacists who are demonizing Jordan Neely, who was suffering from mental illness. He had run-ins with the law in the past. It's not clear if any of those previous arrests resulted in a conviction, okay? But we know that he is being demonized just like Trayvon Martin was demonized also. So we'll discuss that on today's show. Secondly, last Sunday, we did not get a chance to talk about the update with the reparations, California Reparations Taskforce. Okay, California Reparations Taskforce, and the task force has accepted the recommendation that could give up to $1.2 million in payments to African Americans who qualify in California as a result, not just for slavery, because California does not have a real history of slavery, but for racism, discrimination, etc. So we'll give you some details on this. We talked about it on Farajii Muhammad's show, The Culture, 2 weeks ago, and we ran out of time on last week's show to discuss it. So I want to share that clip with you also. All right. So we'll discuss that. And then also, last Sunday, we talked about the coronation of King Charles. Okay. King Charles III was coronated last Sunday. That was May 6th. Okay. And on the show last week, we discussed renewed calls for reparations when it comes to Caribbean nations that were conquered by Great Britain, or Caribbean nations that are still part of the Commonwealth. Okay. So we discussed this on Farajii Muhammad's show, The Culture, this past Tuesday, which was Tuesday, May 9th. And I want you to hear that clip also. So we'll discuss that. And this is graduation season. So you have different graduations taking place for high school and college. You have commencement speeches taking place. President Joe Biden spoke at Vice President Kamala Harris's alma mater, which is Howard University. He spoke there on Saturday, And one of the things he talked about in his speech is he talked about white supremacy. And he talked about how white supremacy is the biggest threat, basically, in America right now. Well, some of the same white supremacists who think that Daniel Penny is a hero for killing uh, uh, Jordan Neely, some of those same white supremacists are attacking President Joe Biden for telling the truth about white supremacy in this country. There's an article from Yahoo News that deals with Fox News, and you have on Fox and Friends on the weekend. Okay, now I don't watch Fox and Friends. I don't watch Fox News at all. I don't watch Coup Plotter TV, but on Fox and Friends weekend, uh, they called Joe Biden's speech evil, and one of the co-hosts declared America the least racist country in the world. One of these conservative co-hosts, the idiot, declared the United States of America the least racist country in the world. I'm not sure if she's ever read a history book before. I'm not sure if she's ever studied the history of Reconstruction or the Civil War or the Civil Rights Movement or anything like that. But we're going to deal with this because these are some of the same people who are going to be voting for president. These are some of the same people who voted for Republicans in the 2022 midterm election and gave them the House of Representatives, so that they could then block meaningful bills from getting through the House of Representatives that would benefit African Americans. So we have to understand how all this is connected. All right. So we'll talk about that and more. We'll give you an update on my online classes that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, and Black resistance movements from the Haitian Revolution, U.S. Civil War, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power Movement, 1800 to 1968. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. All right, now on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events and history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. All right, we're going to jump into this first story here. So I want to look at this article from abcnews.com. ABC News has a really good article dealing with Daniel Penny's arrest. It gives a good overview of what has happened so far. So this piece is from May 12th, Friday, May 12th, 2023. Daniel Penny, man accused of choking subway rider Jordan Neely to death, released on bond. Okay, so some people were going crazy. He's released on bond. That's part of the process. Okay, focus on arrest, charges, trial, conviction, sentencing. Okay, whether they get out on bond, I wouldn't stress it took 11, 12 days for him to be arrested or anything like that. I've seen this numerous times. I've covered dozens of these killings, shootings, etc. So I focus on the end results. Daniel Penny, man accused of choking subway rider Jordan Neely to death, released on bond. Now, Jordan Neely was homeless when he was killed by a fellow subway passenger. Okay, so if we look at this article briefly before the break, Former U.S. Marine Daniel Penny turned himself in to New York City on Friday, New York City Police Department on Friday, in connection with the chokehold death of Jordan Neely aboard a subway train. Now, Daniel Penny, who is white, he's 24 years old. He's an ex-Marine. He was placed under arrest for second-degree manslaughter, and he was handcuffed. He appeared in court under police guard and did not enter a plea. Now, Assistant District Attorney Joshua Steinglass said that prosecutors conducted a thorough investigation that included interviews with eyewitnesses, 911 callers, interviews with 911 callers and responding officers before moving forward with the criminal charge. Okay, before moving forward with the criminal charge. Video showed Daniel Penny putting Jordan Neely in a chokehold on May 1st following outbursts from Jordan Neely on an F train. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. How's everybody doing today? Stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation, WFDF in Detroit. Back from break in 3 minutes. Stand by. Okay, back from break in 3 minutes. All right, so who do we have watching? Post your comments here. Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast. Who missed the online class that I taught on Saturday? Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understand the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This is our 12-week online class that I teach. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com to register for this 12-week online course. Back from break in 1 minute.
which show we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They may have their areas of expertise, but some people need to learn how to stay in their own lane. If you don't know, just say you don't know. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into this.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, I want to go back to this article from, this is from ABC News. Daniel Penny, man accused of choking subway rider Jordan Neely to death, released on bond. Okay, this is from Friday, May 12th, 2023. All right, so video showed Daniel Penny putting Jordan Neely in a chokehold on May 1st. Following outbursts from Neely on an F train, several witnesses observed Neely making threats. Assistant District Attorney Joshua Steinglass told the judge. Now, Daniel Penny held Jordan Neely for several minutes, and at some point, Jordan Neely stopped moving, but Daniel Penny continued to hold him for a period of time, Assistant District Attorney Joshua Steinglass said. Now, Penny remained on the scene to talk with police. Defense Attorney Thomas Kenneth, Kenniff, said that Daniel Penny, quote, has been fully cooperative throughout this process. Now, Kenneth told reporters, Defense Attorney Thomas Kenneth told reporters that Daniel Penny, quote, turned himself in here voluntarily and with the sort of dignity and integrity that is characteristic of his dignity of service to this grateful nation. I don't really know what to make about a statement like that. So you just choked a man to death for 15 minutes. You just put a lethal chokehold on an unarmed man for 15 minutes. And his defense attorney wants to talk about somebody turning themselves in with dignity and integrity and things like this. Okay. Okay. He's trying to earn his money, but okay. Let's continue. So attorneys for Daniel Penny said in a statement Friday, we fully expect that Daniel will be exonerated of all charges. Don't be so quick to assume that. Now, Daniel Penny's surrender came one day after the Manhattan District Attorney's Office confirmed that he would be arrested for second-degree manslaughter, for which the maximum penalty is 15 years in prison. Now, Daniel Neely, family attorney Jordan Neely, family attorney Lennon Edwards is advocating for second-degree murder charges, saying that Daniel Penny should have known Neely could die after seeing him struggle during the chokehold. Now, manslaughter is the second-degree murder deals with intent. Manslaughter is dealing with recklessness. Okay, it's not that you intended to kill somebody, they died, and it was reckless, and it was because of your actions. To prove second-degree murder, you need evidence to do that. So the defense attorneys are going to say, yeah, it should be second-degree murder, etc., which deals with intending to kill him. Doesn't have to be premeditated, but it deals with intent. The prosecution has to prove intent. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. Daniel Penny is saying that it is self-defense. The prosecution is tasked with proving that it's not self-defense. And then the prosecution would have to prove that his intent was to kill Jordan Neely. The evidence may not bear that out. Now, it's going to be taken before grand jury, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, ran by District Attorney Alan Bragg. They're going to take it before a grand jury. Maybe the evidence will, maybe the grand jury will come back with a second degree murder charge, or maybe they'll come back with manslaughter. But whatever it is, whatever the charges are, the evidence has to bear that out. And the burden of proof is on the prosecution, not the defense. So the defense has a harder job. I'm sorry, the prosecution has a harder job than the defense. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. All right. I want to go to this clip here from the first clip. We're going to clip number 1. Doug, this is from Good Morning America. This is from Friday, May 12th. Was this Friday or Saturday? May 12th, 2023. Ex-Marine surrenders to police for deadly chokehold. Let's go to clip number 1, please.
Choking a homeless man to death on a New York City subway last week has officially been charged with second-degree manslaughter.
24-year-old Daniel Penny surrendered to authorities this morning in Manhattan. During his arraignment hearing in the last hour, the judge set a $100,000 bail. NBC News correspondent Lindsay Reiser joins us now from outside Manhattan Criminal Court, where the suspect was just arraigned. Lindsay, tell us more about the charge here, second-degree manslaughter, and how is Penny reacting to it?
So just shortly after noon, Penny surrendered here for his arraignment, and we did mention that $100,000 bond. He walked in with handcuffs, he walked out without those handcuffs because he paid $6,000 of that bond, and his parents guaranteed the rest. He has to surrender his passport for the next 48 hours, and his next court date is July 17th. But we did just hear in the last few minutes from the district attorney's office, Alvin Bragg releasing a statement saying after reviewing the facts and evidence of the case, they developed probable cause to arrest and arraign Penny, saying that they talked to witnesses, they reviewed the footage, and they reviewed the medical examiner's report. And Bragg concluding his statement with Jordan Neely should be alive today. We should mention we do have a statement from Penny's attorneys who we're going to put on the screen right now for you, saying he risked his own life and safety for the good of his fellow passengers. The unfortunate result was the unintended and unforeseen death of Mr. Neely. We are confident that once all the facts and circumstances surrounding this tragic incident are brought to bear, Mr. Penny will be fully absolved of any wrongdoing. Remember, it was on May 1st that Neely entered this subway car yelling, threatening, saying, "I'm hungry, ready to die," and that is when Penny put him in that lethal chokehold. Kate and Vicki.
Lindsay, what are we hearing from Neely's family attorneys?
So they held a press conference today, and they showed a picture of Neely in his cap and gown, saying this could have been any one of us, that he had family who supported him, he had dealt with tragedy early in his life, and he was battling his own demons. They also had this to say about the case.
Penny is getting a chance to rewrite what happened in the subway that day as time goes by. He's going to come up with more and more things to make himself look better, because that's the only way that he can escape the consequences of what he did. But I tell you one thing, he cannot rewrite how the story ends.
And they also added, Kate and Vicki, that today's arraignment is really the first step in their quest for justice. Back to you.
NBC News correspondent Lindsay Reiser with us. Lindsay, thanks so much. NBC legal analyst Danny Savalas joins us now here on set. Danny, I want to pop up that statement again from Daniel Penny's attorney. It says that Penny, quote, risked his own life and safety for the good of his fellow passengers. What does that tell us about what their defense might be if and when this goes to trial? And did Penny have a legal obligation to check in on the health and the well-being of the victim while he had him in the chokehold?
His defense will be self-defense, or in New York, as it's called, justification. And that is always permitted, not only the defense of yourself, but the defense of others. Although that can be trickier factually, because you have to reasonably believe that somebody poses a threat to a third person before you intervene. And the law allows you to be mistaken about your use of force, but that mistake must be reasonable. And you must actually believe, even if mistaken, that the use of force was necessary in that situation. Here's the key. In New York, it is the state, not the defendant, who must disprove justification beyond a reasonable doubt. So if you're just handicapping this, if you're a betting person, the odds right off the bat are in favor of the defendant.
And just quick to the second part of my question, did he have a legal obligation, Penny, to be like, are you okay, man?
No, there's no explicit legal obligation. The statute speaks more broadly in terms of the use of force must be reasonable. So when you're talking about somebody applying that force for up to 15 minutes, then the law implicitly says that as you continue to apply that force at minute 14, you must still have a justification, just as you needed one at minute 1. So while there isn't an explicit rule to check in, there is an explicit rule that it be reasonable throughout.
We got 20 seconds. What is it that the prosecution has to prove then?
Not only do they have to prove that he was reckless in applying this force, if and when he raises the defense of justification, they must also disprove beyond a reasonable doubt that this use of self-defense was reasonable, or in other words, not reasonable.
All right, that's Attorney Danny Savalas for NBC News Now. Okay, now we're going to go to clip number 1. Doug from Good Morning America, GMA, ex-Marine surrenders to police for deadly chokehold. We'll go to that here in just a second. Let me go back to this article from ABC News. The name of this article, Daniel Penny, man accused of choking subway rider Jordan Neely to death, released on bond. Okay, so if we go back to this article here. Now, the article goes on to say, let me scroll down here. I want to go to page. Okay, we'll pick this up on the other side of the break. And also, when we come back, I'm going to let you hear what happened on Roland Martin Unfiltered when we discuss this case as well. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, bathroom break in 4 minutes. Stand by. All right, who we have here? We have Kenya. So we have Kenya, Jay Russell said greetings. We have Shar Erling. It looked like murder, but I think it would be very hard to prove if they go for the higher charge and can't prove intent. He skates without consequences. That's correct. They have to prove intent beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury of 12 based upon the evidence. The defense attorneys are calling for second-degree murder charges, but the defense attorneys do not have to prosecute this case. The defense attorneys do not prosecute this case. The prosecutor's office prosecutes this case. All right, stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes.
A superstation, Detroit's only African-American talk radio. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media. If great programming is what you want, 910 AM is what you need.
Michael Imhotep. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They may have their areas of expertise, but some people need to learn how to stay in their own lane. If you don't know, just say you don't know. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into this.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation. Okay, calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. All right, we're discussing Jordan Neely out of New York and the arrest on Friday, May 12th of the man who's charged with choking Jordan Neely to death, Daniel Penny, 24-year-old ex-Marine who is white, for those who may not know, and Jordan Neely's African-American. So you have a lot of these conservatives, a lot of people on Fox News backing Daniel Penny, his crowdfunding campaign on social media. It has gotten about $1.5 million in donations so far. And they're going to make a hero out of him like they did Kyle Rittenhouse as well, okay, in Wisconsin. I want to go back to this article here from ABC News. Then we're going to go to the clip from Good Morning America, which is clip number 1, Doug. Some witnesses reportedly told police that Neely was yelling and harassing passengers on the train, authorities said. Police sources told ABC News that Daniel Penny was not specifically being threatened by Jordan Neely when he intervened, in that Jordan Neely had not been violent, and had not been threatening anyone in particular. Okay, so in an earlier statement, Daniel Penny's attorneys offered, quote, condolences to those close to Mr. Neely and claimed that Jordan Neely began aggressively threatening Daniel, and the Marine veteran and others, quote, acted to protect themselves. So how was he aggressively threatening Daniel? Because witnesses said that if we go previous paragraph, some witnesses reportedly told police that Neely was yelling and harassing passengers on the train, authorities said. Police sources told ABC News that Daniel Penny was not specifically being threatened by Jordan Neely when he intervened, and that Neely had not become violent and had not been threatening anyone in particular. So this is why you have a trial, to get to the bottom of this. Okay, because it sounds like either somebody's lying or something's wrong. Let me put it like that. Okay, so that's why you have a trial, to get to the bottom of all of this. All right, now, okay, let's continue here. Now, in an earlier, let's see, Mr. Neely had, so they're trying to paint Jordan Neely as a criminal, and I saw some of these white people on Fox News doing it, and talking about his criminal background, things like this. Now, these are some of the same people who support Donald Trump, one of the biggest criminals in the history of America. These are some of the same people who cheered on Donald Trump's town hall meeting with CNN after he was found liable of committing sexual abuse against E. Jean Carroll in a New York court. Okay, it was a civil lawsuit, wasn't a criminal lawsuit. We already know Alan Bragg's office has filed criminal charges against Donald Trump, the trader-in-chief, former trader-in-chief. But I find it interesting how a lot of these people who are supposed to be for the party of family values, I'm not sure which family. Is this the mafia family values? Which family is this? Is this the party of family values? Which family is this? Is this a family of Klans members? Is it their family values? Is this the mafia's family values? Which family values are these that you would applaud someone who's found liable of sexual abuse? Someone who said that you can, when you're a celebrity, you can grab women by their private parts. They'll let you do it. Trump sounds like he knows from experience. So these are the same people who applaud vigilante justice and say, oh, they were just looking out for everybody. They were just, now we can compare this vigilante justice. May not be exactly the same thing, but it's similar. We can compare this vigilante justice to the 4,700 plus lynchings that took place in America from 1882 to 1968. Because a lot of those, they were saying, oh, this black man lynched somebody. I mean, this black man raped somebody, or he stole something, or he committed a crime or something like this. When we look at Memphis, Tennessee, 1892, the Moss Store murders, Tom Moss and his friends, and they owned People's Grocery Store there in Memphis, Tennessee. You had a competitor of his, was a white grocery store owner, got jealous that Tom Moss was taking this white grocery store owner's customers. So one night he sends some off-duty deputies over to Tom Moss's store to trash the store. Tom Moss and his friends are there, and they're armed. Now, they didn't know that they were off-duty deputies. Rightfully so. They shot back. They defended themselves. So then they're going to be arrested. Okay? They're arrested along with about 100 African Americans are arrested. They're taken to jail. One night, the Ku Klux Klan comes in, takes Tom Moss and his two friends out of prison, out of jail, not prison. They weren't convicted yet. Out of jail, take them to the railroad tracks and shoot them to death. We have countless stories of lynchings of African Americans in this country for allegedly raping white women. And a lot of that was consensual sex. This is something that Ida B. Wells found out when she started doing her investigation, because the Moss Store murders in Memphis, Tennessee in 1892 is how Ida B. Wells got involved in the anti-lynching movement, because those were her friends who were killed. And she's writing, and she's owner of the newspaper there, the black newspaper in Memphis, Tennessee, and she's writing stories about this. And her writings infuriated white people so much that they trashed her newspaper office while she was out of town, and she had to leave Memphis, Tennessee for her own life, because she was getting death threats. Now, they didn't know that it was a woman writing. She used a different pen name when she wrote. But there's a history of lynchings of African Americans in this country, unjust killings. I'm not saying this one here is exactly the same as many others, but it sounds similar. Then there were at least two bystanders on the train who held him down who held Jordan Neely down while Daniel Penny allegedly choked him to death. What threat did Jordan Neely pose that three people have to subdue him. And he ends up dying. Now, many people are calling for charges for the other two people. And I think there should be. Many people are calling for charges for the other two people because he couldn't even defend himself. Jordan Neely couldn't even defend himself. It's 3 against 1. Now, the question I asked on Roland Martin Unfiltered is like, where were the African Americans on that subway train? Because somebody should have intervened to save him. You got 3 white people, appear to be white, and 1 African American, and 1 is choking him to death. The chokehold that was used is a rear naked choke. You use the inside forearm and the bicep against the carotid artery on the side of the neck. One of the defense attorneys said that it was cutting off his air. No, it doesn't cut off the air, it cuts off the flow of blood to the brain. You can knock somebody out in 10 seconds to 30 seconds with that chokehold. Daniel Penny had that chokehold on Jordan Neely for 15 minutes. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. I want you to hear what happened when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered discussing this on Friday, May 12th. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Listen to the African History Network show. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Back from break in 4 minutes. How's everybody doing? If you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. Be sure to register for the online classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Also, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We're going to post the link here, and it's on the homepage of our website also, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. Back from break in 3 minutes. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by, everybody. Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast. Post your comments here. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by.
program segment is what you want. 910 AM is what you need.
I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They may have their areas of expertise, but some people need to stay in their own lane. If you don't know, just say you don't know. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into this.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, WFDF. Okay, if you'd like to stop for information, you can support the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. Be sure to register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. We have our social media platform information there, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and our PayPal and Cash App links here also. You click on our Cash App link. It shows our QR code. This is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN show, SHOW. When you go to it, it'll say Michael, and may show my picture there. We have the information for the 2 online classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. And on Saturdays and Sundays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have a bundle pack of both courses for $80. That's a $300 value. All right. I want to go back to this story dealing with Jordan Neely. Now, right before the break, I was talking about Ida B. Wells and how Ida B. Wells got involved in the anti-lynching movement. This article here from PBS.org, Public Broadcasting System, and they have a section dealing with the rise and fall of Jim Crow. And this is also at the website 13.org. Ida B. Wells forced out of Memphis, 1892. Ida B. Wells forced out of Memphis, 1892. And it deals with the Moss Store murders, MOSS. Okay, Tom Moss and 2 of his friends, Calvin McDowell and Henry Stewart, were arrested for defending themselves against an attack on Tom Moss's store. Tom Moss was a highly respected figure in the African-American community, a postman, and as well as the owner of a grocery store. A white competitor, enraged that Tom Moss had drawn away his black customers, hired some off-duty deputy sheriffs to destroy Tom Moss's store. Tom Moss and his friends, not knowing the men were deputies, resisted, rightfully so, and a gun battle broke out and several deputies were wounded. Okay. Tom Moss, his 2 friends, and 100 other African-American supporters were arrested. The guys who were defending themselves got arrested. Now, I'm not sure if Jordan Neely started defending himself, if he would have been the one who got arrested, like what happened with Tom Moss and 100 other African-Americans. I'm not sure, but, I don't know, but okay. Several nights later, masked vigilantes dragged Tom Moss and his 2 friends from their cells, took them to a deserted railroad yard, and shot them to death. That's a lynching. They shot them to death. Enraged by their deaths, Ida B. Wells lashed out at the refusal of the Memphis police to arrest the well-known killers. Now, at least here, Daniel Penny was arrested and he's being charged, because back in 1892, these white deputy sheriffs, they weren't arrested. They weren't charged. Ida B. Wells encouraged African Americans to protest with boycotts of white-owned businesses. We need more economic boycotts today. Notice most of these civil rights organizations don't call for economic boycotts of white corporations, white-owned businesses. Still trying to figure that one out. Go to their websites, look at their look at their annual reports and look at the white corporations that donate to them. That may have something to do with it. I could be wrong, but let's start there. Follow the money. But anyway, protests with boycotts of white-owned stores and public transportation. The lynchings were a turning point in Ida B. Wells' life. She began to investigate and reveal the real motivations that lay behind lynching. Like many middle-class African Americans, Ida B. Wells had accepted the myth that only poor blacks were lynched. Ida B. Wells was now shocked into recognizing that even innocent middle-class African Americans could be targets. As Ida B. Wells investigated the reason for lynching, she discovered that a number of victims were lynched for not rape, but for having sexual relations with consenting white women. Okay, now that's a whole nother show, but this is understanding this history. Okay, and the unjust killings of African Americans continues today. So check this out at pbs.org. This deals with Ida B. Wells. What is that? Ida B. Wells forced out of Memphis, 1892. She had to leave Memphis, Tennessee, because she was getting death threats. Kind of like Rosa Parks had to leave Montgomery, Alabama, after the Montgomery bus boycott, because she was getting death threats also. Ida B. Wells goes up to Chicago, lives in Chicago. Rosa Parks came here to Detroit. The Honorable John Conyers gave Rosa Parks a job in his congressional office. All right, I want to go to clip 2. This is clip number 1 from Good Morning America, dealing with Jordan Neely. Let's go to clip number 1, please, Doug.
Former Marine who put a homeless man in a deadly chokehold on a New York subway. He's now facing criminal charges. Ramos has the latest. Good morning, Stephanie.
Rebecca, good morning. Daniel Penny, the man that put that homeless man in a deadly chokehold, turned himself into police right behind me this morning to face criminal charges, as he continues to say through his attorneys that he never intended to harm anyone. This morning, the man who put Jordan Neely in a deadly chokehold on a New York City subway, turning himself into police.
He did so voluntarily and with the sort of dignity and integrity that is characteristic of his history of service to this grateful nation.
All right, pause it right there. We'll pick this up on the other side of the break. Also, when we come back, we discussed this on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday. I want you to hear that segment also. Listen to the African History Network show on Michael Imhotep. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes, everybody. Back from break in 4 minutes. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. All right, we got Imani. Shabazz said, peace, brother. Who else we have here? Post your comments here. We've got Patricia Banks. She said, greetings, my brother. All right. So post your comments here. Give us a heart. Give us a like on this broadcast. We'll be back from break in 4 minutes. Sorry, back from break in 3 minutes. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by. Back from break in 1 minute.
Nine ten AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media. If great programming is what you want, 910 AM is what you need.
I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They may have their areas of expertise, but some people need to learn how to stay in their own lane. If you don't know, just say you don't know. So we have a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into this.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons of the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation. All right, we're going to go back to the clip here from Good Morning America from Friday, May 12th. This is dealing with the arrest of Daniel Penny on second-degree manslaughter charges in the alleged killing of Jordan Neely, which took place May 1st, 2023 in New York City. Let's go back to this clip, please.
The case will now go to court. We expect an arraignment will occur this afternoon. The process will unfold from there.
The Manhattan District Attorney telling ABC News the 24-year-old former Marine, Daniel Penny, will be charged with manslaughter in the second degree with a maximum penalty of 15 years.
The difference between manslaughter and murder is that murder requires an intentional act. Manslaughter is the reckless killing of another individual with no intent.
No justice!
This comes after days of protests around the city. Mayor Eric Adams addressing Neely's death.
One of our own is dead. A black man, black like me. One thing we can say for sure, Jordan Neely did not deserve to die.
Penny, seen in this disturbing video from May 1st, restraining Neely in a chokehold for at least 3 minutes as other passengers hold Neely down. Police say Neely was harassing passengers and making threats, but was not physically violent. The 30-year-old was later pronounced dead at the hospital.
It needs to be made clear that there are consequences when a civilian takes a situation into their own hands and causes a fatality.
That second-degree manslaughter charge suggests prosecutors believe Penny did not intend to kill Neely, but acted recklessly by putting him in that chokehold. If convicted, Penny could face up to 15 years in prison. Rebecca.
A lot of attention on this one. All right, Stephanie Ramos, thank you.
Okay, pause right there. All right. Okay, now, if we go back to this article here from ABC News quickly, and the name of this article is Daniel Penny, man accused of choking subway rider Jordan Neely to death, released on bond. Okay, and it is okay. So here's the name of this article right here. Daniel Penny, man accused of choking subway rider Jordan Neely to death, released on bond. This is from Friday, May 12th, 2023. So it has a statement from Alan Bragg's office. He's a district attorney there. Now you had people who weren't sure whether or not charges were going to be filed, things like this. There was no doubt in my mind charges would be filed if the evidence bared it out. Alan Bragg is the same man who filed criminal charges against Donald Trump. The first time in history that criminal charges have been filed against a former president. That's Alan Bragg's office that did that. So if he filed criminal charges against the traitor-in-chief, then I knew criminal charges were coming here. Okay, if the evidence bared it out. There was no doubt in my mind that criminal charges were not going to take place. Now, let's see here. Let's go to the statement from the district attorney's office. So Jordan Neely's death following the chokehold was ruled a homicide. We know he was pronounced dead at the hospital. Quote, the investigation thus far has included numerous witness interviews, careful review of photo and video footage, and discussions with the medical examiner's office. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg said in a statement Friday. Now, Jordan Neely, quote, Jordan Neely should still be alive today, and my thoughts continue to be with his family and loved ones as they mourn his loss during this extremely painful time, end quote. Now, 910 AM's own Reverend Al Sharpton, who you can hear Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, I guess co-hosted Reverend Al Sharpton's radio show, Keeping It Real, some months ago. What was it? August last year, July, August, something like that, 2022. The Reverend Al Sharpton in a statement Friday called the charges against Daniel Penny, quote, just step one in justice, end quote. Let's not forget that there were 3 people restraining him, and it is vital that the 2 others are also held accountable for their actions, Reverend Al Sharpton said. I agree with that. The justice system needs to send a clear, loud message that vigilantism has never been acceptable. Now, there was also an article from NBC News that dealt with how Black Americans say white vigilantism played a role in Jordan Neely's homicide. Okay, we'll talk about that briefly after we go to this clip here. Now we're going to clip number 3. Doug, starting at the 8 minutes 16. I'm sorry, we're going to start at the 18 minute. Doug, we're going to start this at the 18 minutes 16 second mark. 18 minutes 16 second mark. Okay, so Friday, May 12th, I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I'm a panelist on Roland Show every Friday, Black Star Media Network. And we discussed this case here out of New York. In the first part of the segment that I don't have time to play, we spoke with attorney Gregory O. Ajosi, Ajose. And he practices law in the New York area. And then Roland went to his panel, and I'm on the panel. Let's go to clip number 3, please, Doug.
Panel today, Matt Manning, civil rights attorney. Glad to have Matt on the show. He, of course, a frequent panelist. Also, we have joining us, we have Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network show. Glad to have Michael on the show. Michael, of course, from coming to us out of Detroit. Matt Corpus Christi, Killer Affair Communication Strategist, Washington, D.C. Glad to have all three of you here. Matt, when you look at this particular case here, Penny has a problem. And Penny's problem is that there were a lot of people who were on this subway train. He's the only one who decided to apply lethal force to choke the life out of Jordan Neely. Nobody else did. So if he's going to make the argument, my life was in danger and the other people were in danger, how so? Gun, weapon? Was the guy, just yelling? They're going to have to make that argument.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think your previous guest was good in showing that reasonableness is the standard here, both in New York and in Texas and presumably in other states. So the question will be, was it reasonable to use really force at all, but to use force to this extent? And I think your point is well stated. I don't think he will have a good argument that he should have used force. I am kind of confused here, though, as to why Mr. Bragg's office charged him with manslaughter rather than murder. What generally happens when you go to a grand jury is they're supposed to give you the charge that they think the evidence supports, but customarily prosecutors go to them with a potential charge, and sometimes that changes. And the reason I'm confused here is because manslaughter in New York is a reckless killing, which means you didn't intentionally or knowingly do it, but there was a substantial risk of harm that you disregarded. And putting somebody in a chokehold is much different than putting them in, another kind of hold, right? Like if he had just kept his body such that he couldn't move, that might make more sense than choking him. But choking him, that the likely outcome is the person is going to expire if you hold them too long. So I'm interested in seeing how this charge bears out, but I think your point is well stated. I don't think he's got a strong defense at all because it'll be very hard to show that he was reasonably in fear of any, harm coming to him and or that force was necessary if you got a train full of people who did not think that was appropriate because they set the benchmark.
And that right here, Kelly, that he also has to deal with, dude, you're on a public transit system. Folks are recording. So we saw what happened. Now, we don't have, first of all, what has not been released is video of what took place before, but we don't know what was all shot by various people. That way we can see what preceded the chokehold.
You're right about that, but at the same time, I agree with what Matt is saying, and I think we're all on the same page here in that I am confused as to why I only see a charge of manslaughter when, as lawyers, we know that the saying is you can indict a ham sandwich, and considering that the jury is, siloed and in a private setting such that pretty much they could talk amongst themselves by way of the DA just presenting whatever they want to the grand jury. I don't understand how the DA thought it was reasonable to not add the second degree murder charge, right? Because we don't know whether there's malice, because that would be first. But second is like you killed somebody, and I don't see any negligence here. It seemed like it was pretty intentional. So it seems like they are already feeding into the court of public opinion on the side that Mr. Penny did not necessarily do anything wrong, because otherwise second degree murder would be one of the charges in the indictment. That's my opinion.
Michael.
Well, Roland, one, I knew charges were going to come here. Two, when Daniel Penny used a lethal chokehold. Now, keep in mind, he was a Marine, okay? So he has training in self-defense. You put a lethal chokehold on somebody for 15 minutes. Now, you can knock somebody out with that chokehold between 10 to 30 seconds. You had him in that chokehold for 15 minutes. So he also has to justify in court each minute why you still have him in that lethal chokehold. The other thing is, if you feared for your life, for the life of others, especially if you fear for his life, why didn't you try to get away? I'm not familiar with struggling with somebody for 15 minutes because you fear for your life like that. And what threat did Jordan Neely pose in the 10th minute, the 11th minute, the 12th minute, etc.? So, and then also, these were charges filed by the DA's office, not from an indictment from a grand jury. From my understanding, it's still going before a grand jury. So
maybe they'll come back with second-degree murder charges.
And that right there, again, what still just jumps out at me on this, Matt, is this notion that I acted in self-defense before something happened. When a person is not brandishing a weapon, anything along those, let's just say, for the sake of conversation here, that Jordan Neely walked up to him and said, "I'm going to knock you out." You still took an action that killed somebody.
Yeah, that's true. I can see, obviously, having done this work, I can see a circumstance where somebody's not brandishing a weapon. A good example would be if he continued to motion towards his pockets as though he had a weapon, right? 12 people might think that that's a circumstance where you're reasonably in fear for your life. But here, I don't think you have that at all. And I think what's already happening with the common character assassination we see in the media is they're talking about other circumstances where Jordan Neely allegedly attacked other people on the subway and that kind of thing. But I don't see that evidence here. So that's one, immaterial. Two, the same kind of character assassination we always see. But three, is going to make Daniel Penny's case that much harder if there's not anything he can point to substantiate that he was in reasonable fear, because that's what the law does. It puts a duty on the person claiming self-defense to show that they were in reasonable fear, right, of their safety. So if that fear is not believed or is not reasonable, you can be convicted every day of the week. And that's what I suspect 12 people do in this case.
And I think for me, what I see here, Kelly.
All right, we're going to pick this up on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF. You don't want to miss what I said next when Roland came back to me. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. We'll be back in a few minutes. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Okay, back from break in. Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 2 minutes. Stand by.
Tax Solutions now, and they got the COVID-19.
So we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They may have their areas of expertise, but some people need to learn how to stay. If you don't know, just say you don't know. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into this.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network show. All right. I want to go back to this clip. So right before the break, I was sharing with you this excerpt from Roland Martin Unfiltered from Friday, May 12th, 2023, when I was on his show and we were discussing the killing of Jordan Neely and the arrest of ex-Marine Daniel Penny. Let's go back to clip number 3, please, Doug.
It's going to make Daniel Penny's case that much harder if there's not anything he can point to substantiate that he was in reasonable fear, because that's what the law puts a duty on the person claiming self-defense to show that they were in reasonable fear, right, of their safety. So if that fear is not believed or is not reasonable, you can be convicted every day of the week. And that's what I suspect 12 people do in this case.
And I think for me, what I see here, Kelly, what I see here is you take this action, and what's amazing is to sit here and watch all of these nutcases on the right hail this guy as a hero. And it shows you the complete and utter disregard we have for folks who have mental issues, folks who may be homeless. This notion that, yeah, it's okay to kill this guy, society won't miss him.
Well, I think it has more to the added layer with the people on the right regarding this issue is that this was an unhoused, mentally ill Black man. I do not think that the vitriol from the right would be as vitriolic had this young man been white, and had this young man been white and killed by another white man, or further, had this young man been white and killed by a Black man. I don't think that we would be seeing the discourse that we are seeing now amongst the right regarding this issue. At the end of the day, this was a young Black man who was mentally ill. This was a young Black man who was mentally ill and unhoused. And frankly, not to make it a stereotype, this happened in New York City. He is not the only one who has these issues. He is not the only one who is going through this. And it would be terrible precedent if Mr. Penny were to, God forbid, be acquitted of these charges or anything of that sort. But I think it's terrible precedent now, the fact that he has only been charged with or indicted with manslaughter, when according to the video that we have seen and according to the legal experts that we have heard from, he could have been indicted for second-degree murder with everything going on. So right now, it's not. It's unfortunate that this is happening right now, but from what I'm hearing on the right, it's par for the course.
So see, the thing here for me, Michael, which makes this thing so bothersome, is that when you listen to these people, what we have this attitude again in this society that these things that this guy was a worthless human being who deserved to be killed because he was so-called loud and threatening people on a subway.
Yeah, Roland, and a lot of these people who are echoing that, a lot of them on Coup Plotter TV, Fox News, a lot of these are white supremacists. Okay, let's be clear. These are the same people who cheered on Donald Trump when he was on CNN lying just the other night. Okay, these are the same people who we see over and over again who attack Black Lives Matter, etc. But let me just say this very quickly. To have a lethal chokehold on Jordan Neely for 15 minutes does not sound like self-defense. That sounds like torture to me. Okay, number one. Number two, I don't know how many black people were on that subway, but God damn it, if you see somebody trying to execute one of us, I hope somebody would stand up and stop that, intervene. Okay, that's totally uncalled for. George Floyd, the knee on George Floyd's neck was 9 minutes and 26 seconds, if I remember correctly. That's a hold from jujitsu that cuts off the flow of blood to the brain. This was 15 minutes. Okay, so we got to have some respect for ourselves and intervene, especially when we see somebody white trying to execute somebody like one of us like this. We have to have more respect for ourselves also.
Well, again, I mean, and that's the thing for me.
Pause it right there. Pause it right there, Doug. Okay, you can watch the rest of that because we run out of time. I got to keep going. We still have a couple more topics. Watch that on Roland's YouTube channel. I'm going to upload that segment to my YouTube channel also. I have 64,000 followers on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP on YouTube. So if you don't follow us on YouTube, you should. Go ahead and do that now. Also follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. Okay, now there was there's an article from NBC News. It picked up actually NBC News Black, okay, their African American platform. Black Americans say white vigilantism played a role in Jordan Neely's homicide. Black Americans say white vigilantism played a role in Jordan Neely's homicide. Quote, it reignites the terror in the souls of black folks when we witness these killings of our people without trial, without jury, without adjudication, end quote, one psychologist said. Now this goes, see, this is like, he hasn't been convicted yet. So this reminds me of lynchings. This reminds me of a modern day lynching. So very quickly here, clinical psychologist Donald Grant, who practices in Los Angeles, California. For Donald Grant, a clinical psychologist in Los Angeles, the deadly act represents a white vigilantism that has become an ever-present threat to Black Americans, manifested in the killings of many men and women whose names have made up headlines and hashtags over the decades, okay? Whose names have made up headlines and hashtags over the decades. Quote, it reignites the terror in the souls of Black folks when we witness these killings of our people without trial, without jury, without adjudication, said Dr. Grant, said Donald Grant, clinical psychologist, Dr. Grant, author of the book, White on White Crime, Old Lies in Contemporary Times, OLD, White on White Crime, Old Lies in Contemporary Times. The Vigilante Act is really a reminder of the dangerous conditions that Black Americans exist in now. There was vigilantism in Memphis, Tennessee in 1892 when Tom Moss and his friends were taken out of jail and executed by the white mob. Quote, the article goes on to say, it's not enough that Black people are killed, Dr. Grant said. It's that each killing requires, quote, public outrage for our humanity to be recognized in a way that does not allow us to be murdered like animals in public spaces, end quote. Now, Jordan Neely died because of compression of neck. A spokesperson for the New York City New York City Office of the Chief Medical Examiner said, the outrage that Jordan Neely, who had a history of mental illness and was homeless, according to lawyers, could be strangled to death in front of passengers on a New York subway conjured concerns of vigilantes taking action against Black people, said Tyrone Irby, a native New Yorker who lives in Durham, North Carolina. Tyrone Irby said the incident reminded him of people like George Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch captain. Now, George Zimmerman wasn't he was not part of Neighborhood Watch. Neighborhood Watch is a nationwide organization that is governed by the National Sheriff's Association. So he was in the neighborhood watching. That's what George Zimmerman was. He was in the neighborhood watching. Okay, let's put it like that. He shot Trayvon Martin in Sanford, Florida in 2012. Florida has a deep history of racism against African Americans. Or Gregory and Travis McMichael, a father and son who gunned down jogger Ahmaud Arbery 3 years ago with their friend William Roddy Bryan. Now, William Roddy Bryan, who's in prison also, he was not armed. He was just stupid and went with those white supremacists. After Ahmaud Arbery's killing, Irby created Together We Stand, an organization that supports meaningful conversation among people of different races to bring about change. Okay, read the rest of this article here from NBC News. Black Americans say white vigilantism played a role in Jordan Neely's homicide. Okay, when we come back, I want to touch on this article here from Fox News. From Fox News, Governor Ron DeSantis has joined in the praise of Daniel Neely, Daniel Penny, I should say. DeSantis fundraises for Daniel Penny, who faces manslaughter charges in Jordan Neely death. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, stand by, everybody. Back from break in 4 minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Back from break in 3 minutes. All right, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. We only have 30 minutes left. Damn. Okay, let me see where we gotta go to. We gotta go to. Back from breaking 1 minute, everybody. I have to get ready for this next segment. Stand by. Okay, give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a heart on this broadcast.
In 10, the Superstation, Detroit's only African-American talk radio. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media. If great segment is what you want, 910 AM is what you need.
I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They may have their areas of expertise, but some people need to learn how to stay in their own lane. If you don't know, just say you don't know. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into this.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network show. All right. So right before the break, I was teeing up this article from Fox News that I saw. And I saw some other stories about this. There's one from the Washington Post dealing with how the conservatives are rallying around Daniel Penny. But this article from Fox News, foxnews.com, Governor Ron DeSantis, and Florida needs to be desanitized. Governor Ron DeSantis fundraises for Daniel Penny, who faces manslaughter charges in Jordan Neely death. DeSantis says Daniel Penny is Good Samaritan who is being targeted by Soros-funded District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Now, I told y'all, I warned you all about Governor Ron DeSantis back in 2018 when Andrew Gillum was running against him. And you remember they had the debate, and Andrew Gillum said, I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm saying the racists think that Mr. DeSantis is a racist. Now, I was warning people about Ron DeSantis in 2018, and I said Ron DeSantis has to be stopped. Vote for Andrew Gillum. His policies are much better for African Americans. You had some dumbass black people who commented on my Facebook fan page, the African History Network, who said they were not going to vote for Andrew Gillum because they said Andrew Gillum does not have a black agenda. Ron DeSantis has a black agenda. Ron DeSantis has an anti-black agenda. And an anti-black agenda is worse than not having a black agenda. First of all, black agenda is what we give them. That's not what politicians give us. So you don't even understand this if you think that a politician gives African Americans our agenda. No other race of people, no other group of people wait on a politician to give them their own agenda. That's stupid. But Ron DeSantis has an anti-black agenda. And the first thing that you have to do in a political campaign is identify those people who have an anti-black agenda, because they have to be stopped. You have to stop them. You have to keep them out of office. And many of us are too politically naive that we don't understand that. We listen to a lot of these black social media disinformation agents just following a bunch of nonsense on social media. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is fundraising for New York City Marine veteran Daniel Penny, who faces criminal charges for the death of Jordan Neely. A homeless man who witnesses and prosecutors said had been, quote, making threats and scaring people, end quote, on the subway. Making threats and scaring people. What type of threats? And how was he scaring people? Just because somebody scares somebody, that means they should be killed? That means they should be choked because, oh, you're scaring people. DeSantis on Friday shared a fundraiser for Penny's legal defense, calling him a good Samaritan and criticizing Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg as a pro-criminal, quote unquote, pro-criminal and Soros-funded prosecutor. Well, Alvin Bragg is prosecuting the traitor-in-chief, Donald Trump. What do you mean pro-criminal? He's holding one of the biggest criminals in the history of America accountable. Ron DeSantis. Governor Ron DeSantis, and Florida needs to be desanitized. And Ron DeSantis is continuing the racist history of Florida with, for instance, his voter enforcement task force, which went around and rounded up and arrested a lot of African Americans because it said they voted illegally, even though their voter registration card was sent into them by the state of Florida. Okay, it was sent into them by the Florida government, the voter registration card. They were told that they can vote. And then most of these charges are dropped. So why'd you send the authorities after them, Governor Ron DeSantis? Ron DeSantis said, we must defeat the Soros-funded DAs, stop the left's pro-criminal agenda, and take back the streets for law-abiding citizens. One of the first things they need to do is prosecute Governor Ron DeSantis. I'm sure there's something you can prosecute him for. He's going to be sued over where they're contemplating suing. Not criminal. It's not going to be a criminal lawsuit, but we'll see. It's not going to be a criminal lawsuit dealing with he and the Department of Education in the state of Florida blocking the advanced placement African American studies course. Okay, so no criminal charges as of yet, but who knows? We stand with good Samaritans like Daniel Penny. Let's show this Marine America's got his back. Interesting. So this is the right rallying around Daniel Penny. Then you so read the rest of this article from Fox News. This is about good old Governor Ron DeSantis. Then you have this article from the Washington Post. Conservatives hail Daniel Penny. Let's see. Conservatives hail Hail Daniel Penny as hero after killing man on subway. Now, this is by Timothy Bella, May 13th, 2023, Saturday, May 13th, 2023. You can read this article also. More comments from the Trump supporters and the coup plotter sympathizers, things like this. Okay. Let's see here. All right. So read the rest of this because I'm running out of time for this segment. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was on Farajii Muhammad's show, The Culture, and I was given an update on what's taking place with the it was May 4th. I was given an update on what's taking place with the California Reparations Taskforce. And we did not get a chance to talk about this on last Sunday's show because we ran out of time, like we ran out of time on this show today. But anyway, so there was a article. I talked about this in last Sunday's class, Black Resistance Movements from the Haitian Revolution, U.S. Civil War, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power Movement, 1800 to 1968. The California Reparations Taskforce has approved the recommendations for payments of up to $1.2 million for qualifying African Americans. Now, what's interesting is that this article here from Fox News, published May 7th, 2023, this type of headline is designed to infuriate their readership and the people who watch Fox News, and Fox News skews to older white men who are not college educated. Okay, kind of like the guy that shot Paul Yarrow in the head, the 16-year-old who went to the wrong house. An 84-year-old white man sits up, watch Fox News all day, and consumes other conservative media. He was so scared, he shot him in the head, kind of like that. California Reparations Panel approves payments of up to $1.2 million to every Black resident. Now, there's a word that's missing from the headline, and Fox News knows this, because when you scroll down and you read the first sentence, it tells you they know that their headline is false. The first sentence says the California Reparations Taskforce formally recommended that the state offer payments of up to $1.2 million to every qualifying Black resident. Every qualifying Black resident, not every African-American resident in the state of California, which is about 2.6 million people. Notice is missing from the headlines. Now, how is it that it's missing from the headlines, but you have it in the first sentence of your story? Because it's designed to infuriate the people that you've been lying to all this time. That's what this is designed for. These white supremacists, a lot of them who support Daniel Penny, okay? That's who it's designed to infuriate. The task force held a public meeting in Oakland, California on Saturday, and so that was Saturday, May 6th, and voted on the final set of recommendations to be sent to the state legislators. The 9-member panel called on the state to offer its Black residents a formal apology in addition to the payments. Quote, reparations are not only morally justifiable, but they have the potential to address long-standing racial disparities and inequalities. Representative Barbara Lee, a Democrat from California, said after the meeting. Now, the panel's recommendations breaks payments down by types of historical discrimination. For instance, African-American residents affected by redlining by banks would receive $3,366 for each year they lived in California from the early 1930s to the late 1970s, amounting to up to $148,099. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. This is the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Stand by, everybody. Man, this time went by quickly. All right, so we got Sharon Simpson gave us a thumbs up. All right, how's everybody doing today? Post your comments here. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a heart. Give us a like. You can support the African History Network, $, the AHN show through Cash App. $, the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. Welcome back to the African History Network show. All right, let's go quickly to the phone lines before I go to this clip here dealing with the reparations, California Reparations Task Force. We have Wilson on line one. Wilson, we only have a couple minutes. Go ahead quickly with your question or comment, Wilson.
A comment. Good evening, Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
You know, hopefully the Black California will receive something as far as Jerry and other oppressive measures that have been taken over the years. But as it relates to slavery, I'm a bit perplexed because California entered the Union as a free state.
Right.
And I don't see how, in terms of slavery, I don't see the case to be made unless you approach it from the fact when it was a territory.
But then the main focus is not on slavery.
That might have to come out.
The main focus is not on slavery. The focus is on what happened after slavery ended up until the present. The main focus is not on slavery. Go to
so the reparations are not about slavery?
Very little about slavery. It's about the history that happened after slavery ended. Go keep listening. Keep listening, Wilson. Okay, let's go to clip number 4. I was on Farajii Muhammad show, The Culture, and we talked about the California Reparations Task Force. Let's go to clip number 4, please.
Everyone needs to have the school.
Okay, let's get past this ad. 1 minute, 1 hour, 28 minutes, 1 hour, 28 minutes, 33-second mark.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We have one more conversation that we wanted to bring you up to date on. This is a conversation about reparations and how the state of California, the Reparations Task Force, may be moving one step closer to having some of the Black residents of California to receive some sort of financial payout. As of right now, it looks like the state of California might be on the precipice of making history. Now, according to the latest coming from the Reparations Task Force that was established back in 2020, this, first and foremost, this task force is the first and only task force in the rest of, compared to the rest of the country. But more importantly, this task force is looking forward to having the conversation about how much should Black residents of California should receive. Well, take a look at this. This is coming from KTLA, Los Angeles. The California Reparations Task Force, they released estimates as well as methodology used to determine the amounts, and this was done on Monday, ahead of a critical vote that will take place later this week. Now, according to what the task force has put out there as being how they want to move forward on this whole situation, I want to share this with you. Keenan, if we can post this, thank you. The California Reparations Task Force, they are talking about, I'm looking at the second paragraph here, folks. It says the possible payments reflect the work of economists who advise the task force and who were asked to estimate the total financial losses suffered by Black Californians impacted by slavery and institutional racism. As outlined by the San Francisco Chronicle, an eligible resident who lived in California their whole life and was 71 or older could, in theory, receive as much as $1.2 million. If approved, the task force would urge that the money begin to be dispersed in the form of, quote, down payments, according to Cal Matters. A new state agency would need to establish to distribute funds and determine eligibility, according to Cal Matters. That agency would also help Black Californians trace their lineage to confirm that they are eligible for the payments. I want to bring my brother Michael Imhotep back into the conversation around this issue of reparations. Brother Michael, for the task force to lay out this methodology, to lay out, these requirements, what do you say?
Well, they're progressing along. They by July 2023, they have to present their second and final report that makes the recommendations. The interim report came out June 1st, 2022. It's 500 pages. I've read the 28-page executive summary. I'm working my way through the full 500-page report. So they're continuing the task. They were charged with coming up with a methodology to determine the amount for reparations. They weren't charged with putting a dollar amount on it. That's what the state assembly, that's what the state legislature in California would do. The California Reparations Taskforce was charged with coming up with the methodology. So they consulted with economists who have done that. Now, once again, as we talked about before here on the show, in the 28-page executive summary, they outline 12 harms. Okay, they outline 12 harms that African Americans have suffered nationwide, but also there in the state of California. They talk about enslavement, even though they've identified about 1,500 people who were in a semi-slavery state in California. When California comes into the Union in 1850, they come into the Union as a free state. They talk about racial terror, political disenfranchisement, housing segregation, separate and unequal education, racism in environment and infrastructure, like the expressways coming through California as well as through San Francisco, especially wiping out African-American communities and businesses, pathologizing the Black family, control over creative, cultural, and intellectual life, stolen labor and hindered opportunity, an unjust legal system, mental and physical harm and neglect, and the 12th one is the racial wealth gap. So they're continuing in their charge, what they're supposed to do. So what I think is important for us to do is, one, read the first report, especially 28-page executive summary. Two, one of the things that they talked about in the article from KTLA is the California Reparations Task Force is also recommending that a state agency like the Freedmen's Bureau be created to help African Americans. It would need to be established to distribute funds and to determine eligibility, but also help African Americans in California trace their lineage to confirm that they are eligible for the payments. So once again, based upon California state law, race-based policies are illegal. So this is why in, I think it was 2022, they voted to make any type of benefits that are distributed based upon lineage. You'd have to prove your lineage that you were descended from someone who was enslaved prior to 1900 or of African descent who arrived in the country prior to 1900. And what they're trying to do is legally get around the restriction on race-based policies in the state of California. So
pause right there. Pause it right there. Okay. So whatever benefits are given won't be overturned in court. Okay, read this article here. Why an 1860s agency that helped newly freed Blacks might return in California. This is from NBCnews.com from May 14th, 2023. That deals with that agency. All right, we're out of time here. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. You support the African History Network, register for my online history classes. Right now, it's correct your own behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next week. Peace. All right, everybody. We're out of time. Next week, we'll get to these a couple of these other topics here. Be sure to support the African History Network. If you learn anything on tonight's show or today's show, be sure to support us. $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. You can Google the California Reparations Taskforce. And then also for the I'm gonna give you the link here for the it takes you to the study. Okay, it's under OG, what is it? I have it up here. Yeah, oag.ca.gov. Okay, that's the Office of the Attorney General for the state of California, Rob Bonta. Okay, right here. Rob Bonta, Attorney General Reparations Report. That's Assembly Bill 3121, Task Force to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans. Okay, so they have the link here for the full interim report, executive summary, key findings, preliminary recommendations. A final report will be issued before July 1st, 2023. So it's coming out in about the next month or so. So check this out. This is at, you can check out this website. This is OAG, Office of Attorney General, oag.ca, california.gov. Okay, oag.ca.gov. And you can just Google this as well. All right, now, lastly, I mentioned those 12 harms, and I put them into a PowerPoint presentation when I was speaking to Thurgood Marshall Law School, when I was speaking to a law class at Thurgood Marshall Law School about 2 weeks ago. This is something I talked about. The 12 harms that are outlined in the 28-page executive summary. Enslavement, racial terror, political disenfranchisement, housing segregation, separate and unequal education, racism in environment and infrastructure. 7, pathologizing the Black family, control over creative, cultural, and intellectual life. Control over creative, cultural, and intellectual life. And let's see, the last one here, stolen labor and hindered opportunity, an unjust legal system, mental and physical harm and neglect. And number 12 is the racial wealth gap. So you have to repair that damage that was done. Okay. Lastly, I've been communicating with Camila Moore, who's the chairwoman of the California Reparations Task Force. We're Facebook friends, and I follow her on Instagram, and she actually posted a video of me on Faraji's show about 2 months ago talking about reparations, because the California Justice Initiative, they CJE, I forgot the exact name of them, this other organization, they posted that clip, and they deal with reparations as well. Okay, let me go. I want to play this clip here. This is Camila Moore at the Revolt 2022 Summit, Diddy Summit, Revolt 2022. She's talking about the 5 forms of reparations under international law. Now, she's an attorney, okay? So that's why a lot of what she's talking about dealing with reparations is like the real deal. Is not a bunch of pie in the sky, simple Simon ass nonsense. She's actually an attorney, okay? That's why, and I've been following her. She has a lot of good information. She breaks down the 5 forms of reparations. Cash payments are not the only form. And as I've said before, we need comprehensive reparations. Cash payments alone is not going to do it. Let's go to this clip.
Because that's one of the forms of reparations under international law. But there's all.
I need to start this from the beginning.
Task Force Chairperson Camila Moore at 2020 to Revolt Summit.
For what reparations is. So under international law, reparations comes in 5 forms. So compensation or cash must be included because that's one of the forms of reparations under international law. But there's also restitution, and that accounts for stolen land, stolen labor, stolen property, real or intellectual. So that's relevant in the entertainment space in terms of the cultural contributions of African Americans, right? The other form of reparations under international law is rehabilitation. So that can look like free medical care from birth to death, free education, free legal and trauma services. Then there's satisfaction, which accounts for more symbolic forms of reparations, like a formal apology, the taking down of Confederate monuments, and the erecting of statues that honor our ancestors, for instance. And then the last, or the fifth form of reparations under international law is guarantees of non-repetition. So that gets at more structural and institutional policy change. So my personal opinion is that you cannot call a reparations package reparations unless it includes all 5 of those forms. So it has to include cash, it has to include a check, it has to include restitution, it has to include rehabilitation, it has to
California Reparations Task Force Chairperson Camilla Moore at 2020 to Revolt Summit.
Include all 5 forms. This is what I've been talking about. And when you actually read the California Reparations Task Force report, and I've gotten through the 28-page executive summary. When you actually read through it and it lays out the harms, you realize just cash payments alone are not going to do this. And if we all got $1 million today, you know, white people will have most of it back by this time next week, and the laws and policies that were put in place that inflicted the harm would still be there. Those laws, you haven't addressed the laws and policies at all. Okay, so this is why you have to, 1, do a systems analysis. 2, you have to assess the damage that was done to understand what has to be corrected. Okay, you have to assess the damage that was done to understand what has to be corrected. And I have mine here. I don't know where I put it. I had it right here. I have so many articles here. Stand by. But it's around here in one of these stacks. So check out right here. Here it is right here. Okay. So this is 28-page executive summary. Okay. So check this out at I printed it. I took it to a printer, got it printed out. So I'm going to print up the full 500-page study so I can go through and read that. All right. If we look here at, okay, right here, we can bring up, we can click right here for the executive summary. It'll come up. You just click on the link right there in the on the website that I gave you. Executive summary is right here. So you have some people saying that because California does not have a real history of slavery, that's why it's important to deal with the systemic racism that happened after slavery ended. But that goes for across the country, to tell you the truth. And this is something I've been talking about. You have to deal with the structural inequities that exist today, deal with the laws and policies that were put in place that brought about the structural inequities, and trace that back to the Reconstruction era, the Civil War, and slavery, as opposed to the majority of the conversation being about slavery. You have to change that narrative, talk about present day structural inequities, systemic racism today, and deal with how that came to be. Deal with the laws and policies that were put in place that continue to inflict the harm today, and trace that back to slavery, as opposed to the majority of the conversation being about slavery. That's a losing argument. Page 7 here in the executive summary says some scholars estimate that up to 1,500 enslaved African Americans lived in California in 1852. Enslaved people trafficked to California often worked under dangerous conditions, lived in unclean environments, and faced brutal violence. Okay. In 1852, California passed and enforced a fugitive slave law that was harsher than the federal fugitive slave law, the fugitive slave law of 1850, the federal one of 1850, which was part of the Compromise of 1850. Harsher than the federal fugitive slave law, and this made California a more pro-slavery state than most other free states. Now, California also tried to ban all free African Americans as well. It didn't work, but they tried under their first governor, Peter Burnett. California also outlawed non-white people from testifying in any court case involving white people. California did not ratify the 14th Amendment until 1959, which protected the equal rights of all citizens, and the 15th Amendment, which prohibited states from denying a person's right to vote on the basis of race until 1962. Okay, so they did not ratify the 15th Amendment until 1962. This is California. Read this article here, and not to get out of here. This deals with California tried to ban, once tried to ban all free African Americans. This is from history.gov. So this is the type of history I teach in my online history classes. Those that don't know, this is the type of history we get into on Saturdays and Sundays, especially Sundays, because we deal with history from 1800 to 1968. California once tried to ban Black people. The new state's leaders banned slavery, but tried to kick free Black people out. This is from originally February 9th, 2018, updated May 8th, 2013, written by Aaron Blakemore for history.com, official website of the History Channel. When Peter Burnett took to the podium in Sacramento in 1849, he faced a group of men like him, pioneers determined to take California from an upstart territory to a full-fledged state. He had been elected California's first governor just the day before, and as he addressed his fellow legislators, he brought up one of the most explosive issues of his time: the place of Black people in the future state of California, the place of Black people in the future state. California had decided to ban slavery after a heated debate, but Peter Burnett's vision did not include Black residents at all. Quote, "It could be no favor and no kindness to permit free Blacks to settle in the state," end quote, he said. He went on to say, quote, "While it would be a most serious injury to us, had they been born here and had acquired rights in consequence, I should not recommend any measures to expel them. The object is to keep them out. The object is to keep them out," end quote. Now, Peter Burnett, who was the first governor of California when it became U.S. territory, because the governor before him was Pio Pico, who was of Latino, African American, African, and Native American ancestry, Pio Pico. Peter Burnett was not alone in his vision of a California that banned Black people. Throughout the 1840s and 1850s, California citizens and legislators fought to ensure that free African Americans would be prohibited from immigrating to or living in California. And though their efforts eventually failed, they reflected the fear and racism faced by African Americans in the American West. All right, so read the rest of this article. I don't have time to get into the rest of it. We're out of time here. California once tried to ban Black people. This is from history.com, official website of the History Channel. We have to get out of here. Be sure to register for the online history classes that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. If you miss the class we did on Saturday, is archived. We didn't do one today. We're going to do it either Monday or Tuesday. Black resistance movements from the Haitian Revolution, U.S. Civil War, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power Movement, because we ran into technical difficulties today. But we had a great class on Saturday. Okay, so we'll post a link here. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. You can register for the classes there. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. A year from now, 2 years from now, you can go back and watch the entire class, and because it will be archived, so you can go back and watch the entire class. And our next class will be on Saturday, May 20th, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, Saturday, May 20th, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ancient Kemet, one of the original names for Egypt. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. We have to get out of here. Right now, it's correct your own behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Oh, and contact me through the website. If you want me to speak at your Juneteenth event, either in person or virtually, contact me at theafricanhistorynetwork.com or email me at ahnshow at theafricanhistorynetwork.com. All right.